Rebirth immediately after, he abandons me who am preparing to register, rushing toward the pregnant childhood sweetheart. He doesn't know I have also been reborn. In this life I decide not to help the poor, to bear all suffering with him, starting from scratch, returning to the city to marry into a powerful family, and with my fiancé we climb to the top of the rich list. He cries and asks why he never became the richest man, old partner with late-stage stomach cancer, at the brink of death, crying and saying he regrets marrying me, sorry for keeping widowhood waiting for him for 50 years and the childhood sweetheart. He decides to amend the will, leaving all the inheritance to the childhood sweetheart's cerebral palsy son. I am livid with anger and die when I open my eyes again. I am back to the week before I and old partner registered. This life my partner and I both regret the marriage. She runs toward the younger widowhood childhood sweetheart Lee Xiaolu. I call home to answer for the family. Arranged marriage. On the other end, after a long hesitation, mom and dad ask me, is Sai Sai being bullied by Ji Wenjun? I bite back my tears and tell the person on the phone, Jean Gij has always treated me well since childhood. I'm willing to marry him. In the previous life, when my old partner Ji Wenjun and I just started our business, we suffered a lot. At first my parents would not help me, but Jean Lefeng used the Jean family's resources, funding and effort helped me earn the first pot of gold for the venture. Later Ji Wenjun betrayed me on his deathbed, and my children nearly became dispossessed. It was Jean Lefeng who mobilized the Jean family's legal team to help my children reclaim half of the estate. Ji Wenjun left a will saying he did not want us buried together, but Jean Lefeng, disregarding rumors, insisted on burying me in the Jean family ancestral grave. In the last life I refused the arranged marriage with the well-matched Jean Lefeng, choosing instead to accompany the poor boy Ji Wenjun. I thought after we built up from scratch and achieved success, he would hold me in his heart. But after becoming the richest man, Ji Wenjun said he would rather be poor and single-mindedly pursue love. This life, I have decided to help Ji Wenjun and his aging lonely little childhood sweetheart from the Jean family. Brother, this life I want to be properly and openly buried with you. Hanging up the phone, I planned to go to the supply and marketing store to buy something, but I overheard Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaolu's conversation by accident. Xiao, are you wait for me 3 more months? Yu Cece's parents, since she is their precious daughter, will surely give her a large dowry. After I accompany Yu Cece back to the city, her parents will give us the dowry, and then I will quit my job, take the dowry, and go to the southern city with you. Li Xiaolu's pair of deer-like eyes were bright and red, looking pitifully at Ji Wenjun. Wenjun Ji, I've dragged you down for my sake. You have to marry a woman you don't even like. Ji Wenjun unconsciously pulled Li Xiaolu into his arms and sighed. I've already lost you once, this time I won't let go of you. A trace of pride flashed in Li Xiaolu's eyes, but she pretended to worry and asked, if we take Sister Sai's dowry, what will he do? Ji Wenjun nonchalantly said, San Sai's family is very wealthy, not short of this money. I nearly laughed in anger. It was the same in the previous life. Whenever our business ran into trouble, Ji Wenjun would become a shirking, hands-off boss. I come from a rich family, so I deserve to unconditionally lend money to help him through hardships. I have many connections, so my parents deservedly had to grovel and beg to help him. In this life, I'll see what right he has to be the richest man in the southern city without my family's money and influence. Back home, I began packing my luggage when Ji Wenjun suddenly walked in. Sai Sai, Xiao Yu has begun to show signs of pregnancy. The doctor says it's best to go to the city hospital to ensure the pregnancy, you know. Her maternal family is poor and doesn't have much money. I plan to use the money from our wedding banquet to pay for the pregnancy care first. I interrupted her, not expecting to hear such a decisive reply. Ji Wenjun looked at me with doubt, then said, Xiao Yu's in-laws don't take care of her. There's no one around to look after her. I plan to go to the hospital to accompany her these days. Okay, I'll keep agreeing. I frowned at Wenjun, forced myself to calm down and comfort Sai Sai. Sai Sai, don't think too much. Xiao Yu is the wife of my good brother. My brother is gone. Xiao Yu is carrying his posthumous child, and as his good brother I must help him. I nodded and said I would help. I'm not stopping you from going to the hospital to look after Li Xiaolu for her pregnancy. Ji Wenjun looked at me with suspicion. Are you really not bothered? I shook my head. Ji Wenjun smiled satisfactorily and extended his hand to me. We're getting married. Wasn't your mother secretly lending you some money? I'm afraid the hospital expenses are high. Could you give me 1,000 yuan more? I didn't lift my head and replied, no money. Chuan-jun was anxious. How could he not have money? Just a few days ago, you told me you didn't have enough for the wedding. It's okay, your mother will send you 2,000 yuan. I glanced up at him. My father didn't agree to our marriage. My mother wanted to send me money, but my father stopped her. Chuan-jun panicked immediately. What about the dowry? I lowered my head and was silent for a moment, then whispered, there's no dowry either. Chuan-jun immediately exploded. No money, no dowry, then what's the point of getting married? I twitched the corner of my mouth. Then we won't get married. Chuan-jun, let's break up. Hearing that I wanted to cancel the wedding, Wen-jun pursed his lips tightly, seemingly annoyed. After a moment of silence, he lowered his head and said to me, since you don't want me to accompany Xiao Ru to the city hospital for prenatal care, then I won't go. Give me 200 yuan and I'll buy Xiao Are you some old hens and a few baskets of local eggs to nourish her body. After all, she's carrying the flesh and blood of my good brother. I coldly interrupted his rambling. If you're so eager to serve her, anyone who didn't know would think that Li Xiao Rui's carrying your child. Chuan-jun's face turned red, and he yelled at me, Xiao Rui's already very pitiful being a widow. If you slander her reputation like this, will you only be happy when you force her to death? I don't want to argue with him anymore, I replied indifferently. You're overthinking it. From now on, I won't interfere with your and Li Xiao Ru's affairs. If you want to spend money on her, spend it. If you want to give her gifts, give her gifts. If you want to accompany her to the hospital for prenatal care, that's up to you. Chuan-jun, I'm not joking. The wedding is cancelled. I'm going home. Chuan-jun was stunned for a moment, his expression flustered. He grabbed my arm and said, You Sai, what do you mean? I'm just seeing that Xiao Rui's a widow and is pregnant, and it's not easy for her to be alone. I'm just accompanying her to the hospital. You Sai, can you be more generous and kind? Just then, Li Xiao suddenly walked over with her belly protruding, looking at me gently and saying, Syzygy, it's all my fault. You're about to get married to Wen-jun Ge. Please don't argue because of my matter, okay? It's all my fault. I apologize to you. I won't go to the hospital. I can take care of my pregnancy at home. It's just that the doctor said I'm anemic and need some nutritional shots and I need to buy some. A jiao to supplement. I really don't have any money. As she spoke, she looked at Chuan-jun with a troubled expression. Chuan-jun immediately walked to her side and said reassuringly, You just focus on your pregnancy. I'll go to the city later to buy you a jiao and some red dates, brown sugar, and local eggs. I'll bring them to you tonight. As he spoke, Chuan-jun specifically looked at me, signaling me to give him money. Li Xiao Ru saw that I didn't speak and a smug smile flashed in her eyes. She added, and the money for giving birth and the full moon banquet, I calculated it will cost at least 2,000 yuan. Syzygy, I'm not like you. Your parents are both cadres in the city. I'm just a country girl. My parents value sons over daughters. When I got married, all I had was 2 quilts as a dowry. They didn't give me a penny. I heard Wen-jun say that your mother borrowed 2,000 yuan for you for your wedding. Can you lend me this money first? Syzygy, don't worry. Once the baby is born, I'll pay you back even if I have to sell everything I own. Chuan-jun was moved and interrupted Li Xiao Ru. We're family. Why talk about paying back? Besides, once Sissa marries me, she'll be your sister-in-law. Isn't it right for a sister-in-law to take care of her brother's wife? Li Xiaoru widened her eyes and looked at me. Sister Cici, what about this 2,000 yuan? I was so angry that I burst into laughter, suddenly wanting to know what their expressions would be if Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru found out that all their scheming had come to nothing. So I deliberately said, my dad found out when my mom sent me money. He said the money can't be sent for now and it will take a few more days after he calms down. Ji Wenjun hurriedly asked, how many days? At least a week, right? As soon as I finished speaking, Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru exchanged a look, their faces filled with excitement. When they left, Ji Wenjun said to me gently, Cici, it's so generous of you to care so much about Xiao Lu. This is what a sister-in-law should be like. Don't worry about the 2,000 yuan for now. I'll borrow some from the villagers, and you can sign an IOU. When your mom sends the money, you can pay it back. I lowered my head and smiled, pretending to agree. Ji Wenjun nodded with satisfaction, then turned and helped Li Xiaoru, escorting her home carefully. In the afternoon, Ji Wenjun started borrowing money from house to house, all in my name. Some villagers, confused, came to ask me if I had borrowed the money. I pointed to the newly built 3 brick houses at Li Xiaoru's house and said, Whether I borrowed the money or Ji Wenjun borrowed it, it's all for Li Xiaoru to buy prenatal medicine. The money is for Li Xiaoru if we can't pay it back. Don't we still have Xiao Yu? Her 3 new brick houses can sell for at least a few thousand yuan. When the villagers heard that there was a house as collateral, they quickly lent Ji Wenjun 2,000 yuan, holding the expensive donkey-hide gelatin bought by Ji Wenjun. Li Xiaoru's eyes turned red with emotion. Sister Cici, thank you for being willing to lend me money. I waved my finger and pointed to Ji Wenjun next to me. If you want to thank anyone, thank your brother Wenjun. He borrowed the money from every household. I said this particularly loudly, and the passing villagers heard it. Their eyes on Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru were filled with ambiguity. One was a vigorous young man and the other was a young and beautiful widow. Anyone with common sense would know that they should avoid suspicion. I don't know if these two are genuinely foolish or pretending to be. They actually thought that just by maintaining a classmate relationship, they could ward off gossip in my past life. Although I noticed that Ji Wenjun had unusual feelings for Li Xiaoru, for Ji Wenjun's reputation, I foolishly helped them cover up in this life. Without me, the big fool, covering for them, they are completely undisguised. One stays at the home of his young widowed old classmate all day, helping him fetch water, chop wood, wash clothes, and cook as if he were the master of the house. The other, with a pregnant belly, tenderly helps her old classmate wipe sweat and serve water, as if she were Ji Wenjun's legitimate wife. The villagers watched the spectacle and mocked me for being incompetent, unable to keep my man even with a pregnant woman seducing him. I smiled and said nothing, then turned and took the last package to the post office. In a blink of an eye, it was the day I registered my marriage with Ji Wenjun in my past life. I never left, also waiting for this day. In this life I will shatter Ji Wenjun's dream with my own hands. Early in the morning, I packed my things and waited at the youth point for Ji Wenjun and Sai Jun, when unexpectedly Li Xiaoru appeared carrying a big belly, wearing a red cotton-padded jacket, her small face flushed. Following Ji Wenjun closely, I glanced at what I wore, a deep blue cotton-padded jacket from the Ministry of Labor, and someone who didn't know better might have thought Li Xiaoru was the one getting a marriage certificate today. Before I could speak, Ji Wenjun took the initiative to explain. Previously, the family was poor, and Xiaoru and I's brother got married without even a wedding photo. He said that my brother and I look alike, and since we're going to take wedding photos today anyway, I might as well accompany Xiaoru and take a photo too, as if my brother accompanied Xiaoru to retake their wedding photo. Hearing such nonsense, the watching villagers were dumbfounded, and I just laughed. Why not have you two pretend to be real and go straight to taking wedding photos and get the certificate? Ji Wenjun's face instantly turned grim and he said, "What do you mean?" I sneered. "Just what it means literally. Ji Wenjun, we haven't even married yet. You want to take my dowry to support your brother's wife? I think you should just marry her yourself, that way you can serve him openly for life." Ji Wenjun's face turned dark as he watched me. Li Xiaoru suddenly covered her face and cried, "Cici Jie, it's my fault, it's all my fault. I'm just too envious of you, envying that you can marry such a good man as Wenjun Ji. Envying that you can go take wedding photos with Wenjun Ji. If you're angry, I'll go back now. I won't take photos anymore. Won't that be okay?" Ji Wenjun grabbed Li Xiaoru, saying, "No, I promised you I'd accompany you to take the wedding photos. I'll keep my word." Cici, think carefully. If even this small thing you can't tolerate, then he isn't worthy to be our Ji family's son-in-law. I couldn't help but laugh. Fine, I'm not worthy to be your Ji family's daughter-in-law. Ji Wenjun, let's break up. Hearing me say the words break up, Li Xiaoru's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Ji Wenjun pressed his lips together, speaking unhappily. "Cici, before Xiaoru said you often bullied him. I didn't believe it. Today I've found out you really can't stand Xiaoru anywhere. Let me be clear with you, my brother is gone. Xiaoru and the child in her belly are my lifelong responsibility. If you can accept this, then come with me to get the certificate now. If you can't accept it, then let's break up." I sneered. "Then let's break up. I'm going back to the city today, so I won't delay you and Li Xiaoru from taking wedding photos." In front of the whole village, I directly exposed the window paper between Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru. Both of them reddened with shame, and the watching villagers immediately started gossiping noisily. What did I say again? I had long discovered that Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru had something going on. Who would have thought that Li Xiaoru's belly housed the seed of his good brother, and they were eager to get together now. Perhaps Li Xiaoru's belly really is his. Otherwise, why would Ji Wenjun be more urgent than the child's father to secure money for her to buy pregnancy-retaining medicine? Listening to the villagers' loud chatter, I nearly burst into laughter. Then someone finally responded, "That's not right." Ji Wenjun said that money would be repaid by his wife later on, and now that Yu Sisi doesn't want to marry him, whose debt is this then? The villagers who loaned money to Ji Wenjun heard that I wouldn't marry him, and immediately surrounded Ji Wenjun, demanding an explanation. Ji Wenjun looked at me for help. "Sisi, you promised when your mother sends the money over, we can immediately repay this debt." I spread my hands open and said, "I also told you that the money was saved by my mother as my dowry. Now that our engagement is off, you're no longer my husband. How dare you use my dowry?" Ji Wenjun was stunned completely. He and Li Xiaoru originally planned to pin this 2,000 yuan debt on me so that they could take the money and run far away. Those IOUs were all my signatures, so the creditor would surely come looking for me. But until this moment, Ji Wenjun finally remembered that the IOUs he gave me, I hadn't signed off with my own pen yet. I calmly watched Ji Wenjun's multicolored face full of emotion, and only after admiring it long enough did I pull a stack of IOUs from my bag. With a whoosh, the snowflake-like IOUs directly slapped onto Ji Wenjun's face, which was beet red with anger. "You borrowed the money yourself. You should repay it yourself slowly. I'm not sticking around." After saying that, I mounted my bicycle and left this small countryside village where I had lived for 5 years. Behind me came Ji Wenjun's roar and Li Xiaoru's tense explanations. "All that money was borrowed by Ji Wenjun from you guys. It has nothing to do with me," Ji Wenjun raged. "You bitch, I didn't spend a single penny on you, and I even spent all of it on buying you tonic pills. Now you want to wash your hands of it. Dream on." The scene became chaotic in an instant. That day, I still failed to return to the city smoothly. The villagers called the police, and they told Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru to repay the money. The two of them couldn't come up with it and kept insisting that the money was in my name and to go to some village underworld police station to question me. I explained the whole situation, and even the police thought it was ridiculous because Ji Wenjun and I were not legally married at all. There was no marital relation, so the money he borrowed outside could not be counted as our joint debt. In addition, those IOUs did not have my signature at all. In the end, the police ruled that these debts had nothing to do with me, and I was released on the spot. While Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru were surrounded by a pile of debtors at the police station for failing to repay their debts, and they didn't dare come out. The next day, I finally boarded the train home. Just as the train was about to depart, I unexpectedly saw Ji Wenjun on the platform. He chased the train, running and shouting, saying that he knew he was wrong, that he wouldn't interfere with Li Xiaoru and the child in her belly again, and that as long as I was willing to stay in the future he would treat me well. How could he ever possibly treat me well with what? His job as a town cinema projectionist, a monthly wage of 25 yuan, or with that mouth that only swears and makes oaths? As I walked out of the arrival hall, I saw my parents and John Lefeng standing at the very front of the crowd. My dad's eyes were red and my mom slapped my arm hard before I could cry out in pain. She pulled me into a tight embrace. "You little brat, you almost abandoned your parents for a man. Are you going to dare do that again?" I looked at Jean Lefeng with an awkward expression. Actually, during those years of going to the countryside, I might have started to like Ji Wenjun because she had a bit of Jean Lefeng's shadow. Jean Lefeng and I were childhood sweethearts, growing up in the same compound. Back then, Jean Lefeng was the leader of the pack, and I was just a little kid in a diaper. I remember that even though Jean Lefeng didn't like playing with us, he wouldn't allow the rascally kids from outside to bully us. Later, when I was sent to Xinghua town for re-education through labor, Jean Lefeng's family was implicated because his maternal grandfather was branded a capitalist rhoder and they were sent to the far north of the country. I never expected that when we met again, both our families would be discussing marriage, because our families knew each other well, and Jean Lefeng and I had known each other since we were kids. The marriage was quickly arranged. A month later, Jean Lefeng and I got our marriage certificate, and the wedding was held at the Jean family's old residence. After the Jean family was rehabilitated, many of the properties and shops that originally belonged to them were returned. The old residence was ancient and elegant, covering a vast area, resembling a Suzhou garden. However, my family wasn't lacking either. For the wedding, my parents gave me half of their family fortune as my dowry. Ji Wenjun probably never dreamed that if she had just been devoted to me, she would have received far more than the meager 2,000 yuan my mother promised. After marriage, at my suggestion, Jean Lefeng decided to venture into the home appliance industry in my previous life not long after I married Xie Wenjun. His job as a film projectionist in the township fell through. Entering the 1990s, many families had televisions and VCRs. I thought that with Ji Wenjun's experience as a film projectionist, he would definitely make money in this line of business. So I invested my entire fortune to support Ji Wenjun. Later, Ji Wenjun successfully capitalized on the era's dividends and became the appliance king of Nancheng. In this life, Ji Wenjun Reborn wanted to replicate his past success in business, but it wouldn't be so easy. Jean Lefeng and I were doing very well in the home appliance business. The Jean family had many shops in Nancheng, which significantly reduced our initial rental costs, coupled with the substantial dowry I brought with me when I married, and the support from my maternal relatives. With family backing, within just 2 years, Jean Lefeng and I became the appliance kings of Nancheng. In contrast, Ji Wenjun, after being reborn, originally intended to trick me out of my dowry and elope with Li Xiaoru, but he never expected that I would actually break off the engagement and return. As a result, he got nothing from my dowry, and instead he was drowning in debt. I heard that to pay off his debts, he actually persuaded Li Xiaoru to sell their 3 brick houses. The money from selling the houses was used to pay off external debts, and the remaining money, Jiwang Jun originally wanted to make money by reselling home appliances just like in the previous life, but just then Li Xiaoru went into labor prematurely. Funny enough, back then the two of them used Li Xiaoru's malnutrition as an excuse, trying to borrow money to buy supplements for Li Xiaoru. But in the end, Li Xiaoru's pregnancy went overboard. The baby in her womb grew too large, nearly causing a double tragedy. I heard that the baby had held in for too long in Li Xiaoru's belly, and when born he became brain damaged. Li Xiaoru also had a difficult delivery with massive bleeding, and her uterus was removed. After learning that Li Xiaoru's uterus had been removed and she could no longer have children, Ji Wenjun's face changed. The two had originally agreed to get a marriage certificate after the baby was born, but the child is almost 2 years old now, and Ji Wenjun still refused to register with Li Xiaoru. He still wanted to use Li Xiaoru's money from selling the house to buy and resell home appliances in the southern city. In the previous life, I took out all the money I had, borrowed a lot from relatives, and did my best to support Ji Wenjun's entrepreneurship, but this time I worried that after Ji Wenjun's business succeeded and made a lot of money, he would abandon me. Li Xiaoru obstructed everything in every possible way, and put all the family money with her natal family. Who would have thought that her natal family's brother loved gambling? And in less than a month, Li Xiaoru's hidden family funds were all lost to gambling. Ji Wenjun had long regarded this money as his startup fund. I heard that Li Xiaoru's older brother lost every penny in gambling, and that night almost beat Li Xiaoru to death in this life. Without my interference, after Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaolu reconciled, it didn't turn into a fairy tale life where the prince and princess live happily ever after. Ji Wenjun resented Li Xiaoru for ruining her and my engagement, and hated that he would rather give money to his natal family brother to gamble than support his entrepreneurial dream like I did. When he discovered that Li Xiaolu offered no help to his career and only dragged him down, Ji Wenjun even began secretly going on blind dates behind Li Xiaolu's back. Li Xiaolu now hates Ji Wenjun to death. She hates that Ji Wenjun could blame her, saying he would be good to her and the child for life. But when she heard that she had no money left, and that her uterus was gone, she instantly turned cruel, daring to secretly go on blind dates behind her back. Li Xiaolu now has no house and a bad reputation, so she can only cling to Ji Wenjun and Ji Wenjun to go on blind dates. She carries the child and goes to the girl's doorstep, kneeling in front of the girl and crying, begging to spare Ji Wenjun, offering herself and the child a way to survive. In the end, the matchmakers from 10 miles around no longer dared to introduce Ji Wenjun to anyone, and Li Xiaoru forced Ji Wenjun to marry someone he could. When Jun was set on becoming the wealthiest person in the southern city, and he paid Li Xiaoru no heed since she offered no help to his career. This struggle lasted 3 years. Li Xiaoru failed to marry Ji Wenjun as she wished, and Ji Wenjun failed to save enough money to start a business in the southern city. In these 3 years, Zhong Lufeng and I have not been idle either. Jean Lefeng brought in the latest home appliance production line from abroad. Not only did he sell appliances, But he also began to enter the home appliance manufacturing industry as well. But no matter how busy we are, Zhong Lifeng always has to bring me along wherever he goes. If I'm too lazy to move, he pleads with a sad face, saying that if I don't go, those bosses outside will definitely arrange something for him. The waitresses insist that I must protect her chastity, which makes me laugh and cry. Until I became pregnant with triplets, Zhong Lifeng suddenly turned into a stay-at-home man who doesn't want to travel for business. 8 months later, I gave birth smoothly to 3 infants, 2 boys and 1 girl. After giving birth, Zhong Lifeng cried loudly, then secretly went to have a tubal ligation without telling me, arguing that as a representative of a private enterprise, she should take the lead in responding to policy. 1 birth is enough. The triplets caused a great toll on the body, and during the years after giving birth, my health wasn't very good. Zhong Lifeng panicked. I don't know whose advice he took, but he started doing charity work everywhere. I never expected to see Ji Wenjun and Li Xiaoru again at a charity event. Ji Wenjun still hadn't given up on her entrepreneurial dream, but without my dowry support and my family's help, she had to start from the very bottom. She rented a storefront in Xinhua town, doing appliance repairs and also dealing in used appliances. When Ji Wenjun went to people's homes to repair appliances, she would leave Li Xiaoru to mind the shop. On this day, Zhong Lifeng and I were donating a batch of books, stationery, and sports equipment to Xinhua Town Primary School. As we were leaving the school, we heard a commotion from the street. Looking up, I saw Ji Wenjun dressed in a greasy work uniform, grabbing Li Xiaoru's hair with one hand and slapping her face hard with the other. Ji Wenjun was scolding Li Xiaoru for being shameless, saying that she had dared to close the shop and fool around with the barber next door while he was away. Li Xiaoru cursed Ji Wenjun for being shameless. She wanted him to help with laundry, cooking, and minding the shop, but he refused to marry her or give her a proper status. In the midst of their argument, they actually mentioned my name. Li Xiaoru, with a slap mark on her face and red eyes, cursed Ji Wenjun. You don't think you can come back and marry Yusai, do you? By delaying our marriage, dream on. I've already found out that Yusai got married long ago and even has 3 children. What makes you think she'll wait for you? I heard that Yusai's husband is the richest man in Nancheng, the appliance king. Compared to him, who are you? A broken appliance repairman, like a toad wanting to eat swan meat. Ji Wenjun's eyes turned red with anger. He clenched his fists, about to pounce on her, when his peripheral vision suddenly caught sight of me. He froze instantly. Cici, you're back. I knew you wouldn't forget me. You love me so much. How could you marry another man? You must have been forced by your family, right? Cici, don't be afraid. I'm not married. I've been waiting for you. I'll get rid of this slut Li Xiaoru right now. Don't worry. I've seen through this slut Li Xiaoru's true colors completely. I'll never care about her again. Let's live our lives together. Looking at Ji Wenjun's infatuated gaze, I almost threw up my undigested dinner. Zhong Lifeng unhappily pulled me into his embrace, his eyes sharply warning Ji Wenjun. Who is this lunatic? Ji Wenjun looked at me expectantly, as if wanting to hear about our relationship from my mouth again. I smiled faintly and casually explained, we're not close acquaintances. He's an old acquaintance I met when I was sent to the countryside for re-education. Zhong Lifeng frowned slightly, called his secretary and instructed her to ask the fellow villagers' family if they wanted to take him to the hospital to see a doctor, with the expenses to be covered by his personal account. Zhong Lifeng's sympathetic gaze made Ji Wenjun retreat repeatedly. He shook his head hysterically, muttering, it wasn't me. I'm not crazy. Cici is my wife. She was supposed to be my wife. Something must be wrong. Zhong Lifeng put his arm around me and we got into the car. I looked back and saw Ji Wenjun truly shouting like a madman on the street. After this charity event, I didn't visit Xinhua town for a long time. The next time I heard about Ji Wenjun was during the group's charity summer camp for underprivileged students in Nancheng. The company sponsored impoverished students we supported to visit Nancheng. Unexpectedly, there were several students from Xinhua town among them. When one of the students spoke on stage, he mentioned a tragedy that occurred in the town. He said his elementary school classmate was a child with cerebral palsy who had the opportunity to receive aid from a charity foundation. For some reason, the child's father refused outright upon hearing it was John's company. Later, the child was playing in his own home and damaged a batch of DVD players his stepfather had just acquired. In a fit of rage, his stepfather almost strangled the child with a wire. The child's mother rushed to save him and was stabbed more than 30 times with a fruit knife by her husband, bleeding to death on the spot. It's said that when the man was arrested, he was still shouting that he was Nanjing's richest man, and that he would start over. Perhaps he had gone mad. By the time I heard this story, Ji Wenjun had already been executed by firing squad. After Li Xiaoru's death, the son she gave birth to, who had cerebral palsy and was not taken in by any relatives, was also sent to a welfare home. Ji Wenjun's epilogue. After UCC left, I thought I would be very happy. Finally I could grow old with the woman I loved, but it wasn't long before Li Xiaoru and I both regretted it. She hated me for being incapable and poor, unable to let her steward jiao jujube brown sugar and eggs like before. I ridiculed her for having the body of a lady but the fate of a servant. Knowing that she could live a life of luxury and indulgence with me before was only because she received a small amount of financial support. Now, in order to marry me, she had forced UCC away and instead blamed me for not holding on to UCC. I also regretted it. I never expected that even with a new life possessing the memory of my previous life's successful entrepreneurial ventures, without Cece's substantial dowry and the support of Yu Jiao and John Jiao, let alone selling appliances in Nancheng, even opening a small appliance repair shop in Xinhua town, I was constantly extorted by local thugs. I tried to call the police as I did in my previous life. In the past life, Cece's uncle held a high position, and with one phone call no one dared to cause trouble at our shop. In this life, Li Xiaoru's uncle is a degenerate gambler and couldn't help me at all. He himself often came to the shop for free food and drinks. I reported it to the police station. But since the thugs hadn't injured anyone, the police couldn't do much. They could only issue a reprimand before releasing them. The thugs began to retaliate, disrupting the shop every day as soon as it opened. There was no choice but for me to hand over 30% of my monthly profit as protection money. I truly regretted it. I worked desperately to take orders and earn money, hoping to save up to start my business again in Nancheng, then find that man and get Cece back. But for some reason, every time I managed to save some money, a major expense would immediately occur at home. The first year, Li Xiaoru's son was born with cerebral palsy, and my son developed epilepsy, which used up all of our family's savings and left us tens of thousands in debt. The second year, my father was killed by a mad ox while herding cattle. The funeral expenses were also a large sum. The third year, my mother attempted suicide by jumping into a river but survived. The rescue efforts depleted the money I had painstakingly saved. In my past life, Cece managed household affairs for me. My parents lived to be over 90 years old before they passed away. I was busy with my business outside, and Cece never let me worry about anything at home. But in this life, whenever anything happens at home, Li Xiaoru just cries. At first I patiently comforted her, but later, as soon as I heard her cry, I became furious, wishing I could strangle that bitch. It's all his fault. If Li Xiaoru hadn't been a widow and still restless, constantly seducing me, Cece and I would have been married long ago. But now, every day when I come home, I'm only greeted by the weeping Li Xiaoru and her disabled son who only causes trouble. If I had known that being with Li Xiaoru would lead to this outcome on the day I was reborn, I would have definitely taken Cece to get our marriage certificate. My thoughts returned, looking at the messy repair shop. I knew my life was completely ruined. Therefore, I personally killed Li Xiaoru. I didn't escape, but quietly waited for the police to arrive. When the court sentenced me to death, I wasn't afraid. In fact, I even felt a sliver of joy. I had also been reborn after dying in my previous life. I want to die sooner in this life to meet Cece sooner. In the next life I will treat Cece well and never let any man take her away from me again. Cece, wait for me. Story 2. The night before the wedding, Juqi's sister returned to the country. She threw away my ring, ruined my wedding dress, and trashed the wedding path Juqi had planted for me. I looked at the mess all over the yard and my heart ached, bringing me to tears. They were all blaming me. Luo only has the mind of a 7-year-old. Don't argue with him. Flowers will bloom again. The wedding can happen anytime. 3 months later, I heard Juqi was looking for me, almost going mad. Juqi replanted the wedding path. Come back, let's get married. I lowered my eyes, a cold smile on my lips. I don't want the wedding path. Nor do I want you. On the wedding day, Ju Luo cried and threatened to jump off the building. Juqi's expression immediately changed. He shoved the ring into my hand and turned to go find him. My palm tightened, the ring and its soft texture slid down my fingertips to my heart, scratching it with every beat, both itchy and painful. After Ju Luo threw away my wedding ring, Ju Qi bought another one overnight to save the day. It was beautiful and expensive, but not what I had in mind. Wherever my eyes landed, vibrant red roses, burning with passion and romance, mocked my ruined wedding. Ju Qi and I had agreed that the wedding would feature my favorite white roses. I had countless times imagined myself in my favorite black wedding dress, walking slowly towards Ju Qi on a path of pure white flowers. They all said white flowers were difficult to care for, but Ju Qi didn't hesitate and planted an entire garden path of them for me. At the time, I thought that if he was willing to spend his time and effort on me, he must love me so much. This overt favoritism, however, was completely destroyed when Ju Luo returned to the country and cut them all down, leaving not a single one. Ju Qi was from a blended family. When I first met him, I knew he had a sister. She was in a car accident at 18 and her mental age had remained at 7. Although not biologically related, they had grown up together and their bond was stronger than that of siblings. Ju Luo's condition stabilized and she was returning to the country for our wedding. Ju Qi was overjoyed. He stroked my hair and said, "Luo Luo is just a child. If you are kind to him, he will be kind to you. You two will get along very well." He praised Ju Luo incessantly. In his heart, Ju Luo was a celestial being, a purely kind and good-hearted angel. In reality, Ju Luo was indeed dazzling. From the moment he appeared, all eyes were drawn to him. Spoiled and pampered, Ju Luo was excessively beautiful. His smile was innocent and lively, his skin porcelain white like a doll. He stepped forward, tiptoed and gently hugged Ju Qi. "Brother, I missed you so much." His black shoes on white Mary Yanes made him look like a princess. While I stood there like an extra, his stepmother smiled and teased, "I didn't expect that after so long your sibling bond is still so strong." Ju Luo's gaze landed on me, then quickly shifted to my brother. "Is this my sister-in-law?" He tilted his head up to look at Ju Qi, his smile carrying a girlish innocence. When he turned to look at me, his smile was sweet, but his eyes were full of indifference and distance, which was quite unpleasant. Even as a joke, his words were still very harsh. Ju Qi's expression faltered slightly, and he frowned, gesturing for him to restrain himself and not joke around, as his sister-in-law was thin-skinned. Thinking of Ju Luo's attitude, I felt a sense of frustration. I loved Ju Qi, and I hoped to receive the blessings of all his family members. Ju Qi emerged from the bathroom, his body still steaming, and came up behind me. Still thinking about Luo Luo, he cupped my face, kissed my eyes and coaxed me with a smile. "Don't be angry, I've already spoken to him, and Luo Luo promises not to make such silly jokes again." As he spoke, his long fingers ignited a fire under my sleep shirt. I removed his hands from my waist, which were causing mischief. I am indeed not good looking. In college, people always said Ju Qi and I were like a toad wanting to eat swan meat, and I was the toad. In contrast, Ju Qi was tall, with long legs and handsome features, gentle and refined when he smiled. Who said that? When Ju Qi was passionate, his eyes always sparkled, and one look could draw one's soul in. Eyes, nose, mouth. "Where is my wife not good looking? Don't be angry, okay? Your mouth could hang a dragging oil bottle." With every sentence he kissed me, his actions gentle and careful, as if I were some fragile treasure. I dodged him while asking, Really, I believe you, Ju Qi, but Ju Luo's behavior is hard for me to accept." Ju Qi reached out and smoothed my slightly furrowed brow, his expression earnest. "He's just kidding. Luo Luo's mind is only 7 years old. He's still a child." Suddenly there was quite a commotion downstairs. Ju Qi's eyes immediately cleared, and he got up to put on his clothes. "I'm worried. I'll be back soon." I stood on the stairs and saw the spilled water cup on the table. Ju Qi sat on the sofa, carefully applying medicine to Ju Luo, his brow filled with an unresolvable heartache. At that moment, my heart felt as if it were being fiercely clenched. The first time I felt a sourness like overturned candy. I treated Ju Luo like an ignorant child, as Ju Qi wished, but I never imagined that Ju Luo's disgust for me would be so intense. I prepared the meal and picked up a piece of fish with my chopsticks for Ju Qi. His expression immediately changed as he watched my actions. "My brother doesn't like fish, nor does he eat spicy food. You've been dating for 7 years. And you don't even know these things. As my brother's girlfriend, you're truly incompetent." Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating Ju Luo's beautiful profile, making him appear like a righteous judge. I was berated by him and couldn't react immediately. Say less and eat, Ju Luo said. Ju Qi was feeding him because Ju Luo had scalded his hand. He only looked up at Ju Luo once and the latter immediately fell silent. I didn't want to delve into the subtle interactions between them. I clearly remembered Ju Qi telling me when he was pursuing me that we had the same tastes, interests, and values. He assured me that we were the most compatible. The first dish he ever cooked for me was boiled fish, in the sweltering heat. He accompanied me to a shop by the school gate to eat spicy mixed noodles and drink a 2-yuan cup of mung bean smoothie. I lacked the confidence that someone so outstanding and dazzling would like me, so I kept rejecting him. Ju Qi pursued me relentlessly for a long time before I finally let down my guard, step by step, and he helped me emerge from my closed-off small world. We have been in love for 7 years, and my sixth sense tells me that Ju Qi loves me. However, even the most steadfast love is not impenetrable. Just like now, he doesn't realize that his tenderness and attentiveness towards Ju Luo have far surpassed the boundaries of sibling affection. The first day the wedding dress was brought back after the wedding preparations began, Ju Luo ruined it. He burned a large hole in the chest area, and there were no other parts that were spared from the scorch marks from the iron. It was irreparable. The wedding dress itself wasn't expensive. What was precious was the expectation for the wedding it carried. I could feel it becoming complete in my hands day by day. I had made so many wedding dresses, but this was the only one that was mine, Ju Luo said. I just wanted to take it out and look at it. I accidentally knocked over the water on the table. I tried to clean it up, but I burned your wedding dress. Sister-in-law, she won't blame me, right? Her tone was so innocent, and her eyes welled up with tears, appearing misty and wet. Ju Qi sighed and lowered his head to carefully examine his hand, as if he were afraid of any accidental burns from the iron. I was unhappy that Ju Luo had deliberately targeted me and couldn't help but scold him a couple of times. He ran off crying and Ju Qi chased after him without even a word to me. I looked at the tattered wedding dress, tears welling up in my eyes. That night his father, Ju Qi, who hadn't seen me in a long time, came. He never looked at me once, and in front of me he slapped Ju Qi hard, making her kneel in the yard to reflect on why she had made her sister sad over a piece of clothing. Although he struck Ju Qi, I felt my cheeks burning hot, painful and hot. Ju Qi said, Jing Tang, I know you've been wronged, but Luo Luo is very pitiful. You should yield to him. I watched from the room out the window not far away. Ju Qi, kneeling straight, clenched her teeth and barely kept herself from crying out loud. I've never known who my parents were since I was little. I grew up with foster parents who did not treat me well. I understand the importance of family, and I have always hoped to have my own home. I don't want my presence to escalate into a fight between Ju Qi and his family. So not long after, when Ju Luo threw my diamond ring and stuck his tongue out behind Ju Qi's back at me, I forced a smile and said through gritted teeth, it's okay, I'll just buy another ring. Ju Qi's stepmother had a stern face and in an elder's tone said to me, Jing Tang, Luo Luo is a child. He doesn't understand anything. Your things should be kept properly by you, not left to make everyone unhappy after something happens. Her words blamed me, sowing discord between them, and they were all trying to placate the emotionally low Luo Luo. I sat by the river, turned off my phone, and drank a whole night of sulky wine by myself. Excessive hardness harms both others and oneself. Excessive softness cannot protect oneself. I don't know what to do to be sharp and principled on one hand, and warm and affectionate on the other. When I was returning home it was nearly dawn. Ju Qi was anxious like a trapped ant on a hot pan, dialing my number again and again. Beside him, Luo Luo softly and steadily advised him that his sister-in-law was an orphan and had no place to go. Even if you don't look for him, he will come back obediently. I smiled a little. Everyone says he's a child. But is this what a child would say? Indeed, with a harmless-looking face, it's incredibly easy for him to do bad things. Ju Qi frowned, his gaze fixed on Luo Luo with disbelief. For the first time he spoke harshly to Luo Luo. Luo Luo, why are you speaking so harshly? I walked into the hall, Ju Qi with red eyes, looking a bit pitiful. I could hardly walk, so I clung to him and went upstairs. He didn't say a word of blame, but gently hugged me tightly in his arms. Her voice turned from behind me with a soft, coaxing tone. Everything around was so soft and quiet, as if nothing had happened, and Jing Tang, Luo Luo would leave very soon. Just endure a little longer. And we'll live well together then. I'll make it up to you. I'll be better for you than now, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Don't let me lose you. You don't listen to me. I really don't know what to do. We've known each other for 9 years, dated for 7. Before Luo Luo came back, we were doing quite well, but after Luo Luo appeared, it felt as if he gave me a candy and then handed him a big pile of candy, while I got so little. I've known all along that as long as Ju Qi's heart is with me, I can forgive, I can be tolerant, I can turn a blind eye, because family is also an inseparable part of him. I can't be so selfish. I don't need to compete with Luo Luo, but bullying the weak couldn't possibly be a one-time thing. By the second and third times it would be even more unscrupulous than before, the day things truly escalated beyond control. I was in a meeting to prevent Ju Luo from taking any more extreme actions. Ju Qi had hired a nanny. Suddenly, during the meeting, I received a call from the nanny, my brow furrowed with a bad premonition. Miss Yi, you should come back. As for the backyard, by the time I rushed home after work, only a mess remained. The white roses that used to sway gracefully in the breeze, reflecting beautiful light under the sun, were now cut to pieces. You cut my flowers and destroyed the branches. Why would you do this? I walked up to Ju Luo, trying my best to remain calm. Ju Luo cut off a blooming wedding day rose and casually tossed it aside. It's too ugly. I don't like my brother's wedding. It should have the most vibrant roses in the world. Her smile was still dazzlingly beautiful, but I only felt a chill. Like all my goodwill had been fed to a dog. I raised my hand and slapped her. Ju Luo had fair skin and I hadn't used much force, but half her face turned red. Within half an hour, all the people who used to feign ignorance when I was bullied had arrived. They clamored to accuse me of standing up for their precious darling. I said long ago that white roses aren't good. It's just a few flowers. If they're cut, they're cut. Is it worth hitting someone? The wedding dress is black too. Go ask around outside. What respectable bride wears a black wedding dress? You must apologize. You hit someone before even entering the house. You have no manners. Our Luo Luo can't let you get away with hitting her. Make Xiao Qi call off the engagement. With such a formidable daughter-in-law, I'm afraid I won't dare to visit anymore. When Ju Qi rushed back, that group of people was surrounding me, intending to properly educate me on behalf of my mother. Ju Qi's stepmother and Ju Luo were sitting on the sofa, the mother and daughter clinging to each other and sobbing, looking as if they had suffered immense injustice. Looking at the faces of these people, I had a moment of delusion, as if Ju Luo hadn't been slapped by me but murdered. Ju Qi walked to my side, put his arm around me and turned to his aunts and uncles, saying coldly, "Don't you have homes? Please leave. This is our family matter." The fire of war immediately turned, and those who had been pointing fingers at me now began pointing fingers at him. Ju Qi's father sat in the main seat, his face a mask of anger, the surroundings a cacophony, punctuated by Ju Luo's occasional sobs. Suddenly my head began to pound. My brain felt like it would explode. It's too noisy. The moment I spoke, the clamor stopped. Ju Qi's father, sitting in the main seat, slammed the table. "Rebellion, all of you are in rebellion. Either the wedding is cancelled or your aunt will replan it for you. You choose." That night, Ju Qi and I lay back to back, neither of us speaking. After a long time, so long that I was almost asleep, Ju Qi's voice came from behind me. "Jing Tang, I'm sorry, just for my sake, flowers will bloom again. We'll go to Grandma's house and have another wedding. You'll wear a black wedding dress and marry me again. The wedding will use the white roses you like." He smiled at me as gently as always to coax me, but I've heard these words too many times, as familiar as routine, and I shed tears silently. I really long for a home, someone who has never tasted sugar. Suddenly one day someone gave me a piece of candy, and I wanted to hold the person who gave it to me tightly, but Ju Qiran always ends up disappointed, and when disappointment accumulates, one naturally learns to let go. On the wedding day, everything was relatively orderly. Before exchanging rings, Ju Qi's stepmother suddenly called. Ju Luo sat on the rooftop, crying and insisting on jumping off. He said that if Ju Qi wouldn't go, something would really happen. "Jin Tang, I'll be back soon. Tomorrow I'll send Luo Luo away and never let you suffer again." Ju Qi's brows showed satisfaction, worry and helplessness. I know that as long as I nod, he will rush out immediately. If I refuse, he will hesitate for a moment, then rush out without hesitation. This realization made me feel powerless. I wore a gentle smile at the corners of my lips and said, "Go ahead." Since my wedding was already a complete mess, I'm not afraid of him messing up again. Fortunately, as Luo Luo wished, Sesuhung was always like this, unrestrained and willful. As long as he frowns, Ju-chi would rather tear his own heart out and give it to him. What exactly am I still hoping for? Grievance and disappointment aren't enough to kill me, but they will consume my heart and enthusiasm, making me more and more miserable day by day. Jingtang, what should we do now? Sang Ning ran up from the audience, brows furrowed with indignation. On my wedding day, my groom left me and faced a room full of guests alone. I've given us one last chance, but in the end it still ended in regret. It isn't hard to say I'm not sad, but I still smiled and said, I'm sorry everyone, the wedding is cancelled. I'm really sorry to waste your precious time. Let today be Ju-chi's treat. Everyone have a meal, gather, be happy. After saying this, I turned and walked away. When I got home, Ju-chi had already returned. As soon as I stepped into the living room, I saw Luo snuggled in his arms, stubbornly not coming down. Her nose tip and eyelids were reddened, yet it didn't diminish the brightness and liveliness between her brows. She was still so beautiful, like the tea with gilded petals in a gilded vase. Even when resting quietly there, she attractively drew people's gaze who wouldn't be moved by that. I watched them cling to each other like glue. From an observer's perspective, when he stares back at me, the weekend face reappears with that innocent yet clueless expression. I truly admire her for doing countless bad deeds yet presenting herself as a victim as if it were natural. I understand what it means for a girl to be mentally unstable, so I have been tolerating and accommodating. Ju Luo's misfortune has become his shield. No matter how big his mistakes, no one blames him, but I can't keep letting him bully me. I sit on the sofa looking at Ju Luo, who is sticking close to Ju-chi, and suddenly I feel nauseous. I coldly ask him, are you going to come down quietly yourself, or should I make you come down? Perhaps my expression was too terrifying. Ju Luo froze for a moment and obediently stepped down from Ju-chi. I look at Ju-chi, ignoring his exhausted look, delivering a final ultimatum: either send him back to the Ju family right now, or I will clear the master bedroom for you too. Our wedding is cancelled. Everything is still in time to change. Ju-chi's face immediately turned pale with panic. He explained to me, Jing Tang, why would you think that? Luo is my sister. The person I love has always only been you. His gaze was sincere, just like the day he first confessed his love for me. But when reality returns and you look at this mess right in front of you, how ridiculous it is, saying you love me. Yet what have you done for me? He can't even manage my relationships with my family, nor give me enough security. It's obviously impossible to live in peace. Yet he still wants to have both advantages. How could that be possible? Ju-chi, no matter what decision you make, I do not want you anymore. I left Jiangcheng. When Ju-chi sent Ju Luo home, I went to the airport. I know she will choose to stand on my side, but it's not because he can't live without me anymore, it's because she can't bear the comfortable circle I created for her. 7 years of companionship, we have always been each other's most important person. After Zhong Luo returned to the country, I clearly felt that I was not as important in his heart anymore. Maybe the sense of distance and the clear comparison in standings became evident the moment we were together. Leaving him wasn't as hard as I imagined. From deciding the destination to booking the ticket, it only took a few minutes. I spent 3 years filling my life in Ju-chi's to the brim, but when I left, my luggage was even more insignificant than when I arrived. On the way, I broke my SM card, blocked him, and deleted all contact information for Ju-chi. 3 months later, I heard from Sang Ning that Ju-chi had been looking for me, almost going crazy. By then I had already returned to my birthplace, opened a studio in a small town miles away, and bought a courtyard full of blooming flowers. Every morning when I opened the window, Alice Bubbles would always amaze my sight. The rhythm was slow, but everything was so peaceful and grounded in the bright and amiable May. The locust flowers were white and plump, and the stream became full, rushing and colliding with rocks, making a ding-dong sound. It was already evening when I confirmed the details of the gown with the client. As I walked home under the moonlight at the entrance of the alley, I heard someone shouting, "Stop thief!" In the moment of my confusion, someone appeared in my line of sight. I was terrified and picked up a brick for self-defense, but I was too scared, so when he approached me, I hit him on the head with the brick. The tall, crew-cut man with a fierce look and dark eyes staggered and turned to look at me in disbelief. My first reaction was that I was finished, but he didn't linger, shot me a glare and ran forward. My legs went weak, and I ran back to the studio and immediately called the police. In less than 10 minutes, The man from before came straight to my door. Seeing me, he paused, frowned. "It's you." I trembled and avoided his gaze, hastily denying, it's not me, miss." Not apologizing for hitting someone is one thing, what kind of attitude is this? In my opinion, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. I wanted to cry but had no tears. I knew he must have come to settle the score. Seeing him step forward again, I pointed to the bag on the table. "There's what you want in there, take it, and leave quickly." I was afraid of provoking him, so I didn't dare to say I had already called the police and could only keep retreating, maintaining a distance from him. "Miss, please calm down." She raised her hand helplessly and reached into her pocket, fumbling for something. I suddenly realized she might have a knife. My hair stood on end instantly. I grabbed whatever I could reach and threw it at him, yelling as I threw, "Help! Damn it, you dirty rascal, get out of here." The man in front of me was just hiding. After hearing me, his expression changed instantly. He stepped forward with a cold look and glared at me. "What did you say to me?" I was scared by him and froze, a big question mark on my forehead. The man's eyes were as fierce as a hawk. Suddenly he seemed to go crazy and yelled at me. In my life I hate most when someone calls me a hoodlum. "I am a police officer." "Police?" In my shocked eyes. His hand reached into his pocket again and pulled out his ID card. He didn't have a police officer badge on him. "This is my ID card, look closely, it's clearly not some dirty hoodlum." Peyran put the ID card away. I tentatively pointed to his white shirt and asked, "Aren't you wearing a police uniform?" Peyran's tone softened a bit. "I've finished my shift, though I still feel lingering fear." "But you came alone to make amends," and gave me a fierce look, clearly unhappy with me. "Grinding your teeth?" "That's because a certain lady reported seeing the face of a criminal. She's very afraid and panicked. And I happened to be the closest." I thought to myself, "You're the party involved, can't you stay out?" As the conversation reached this point, he finally seemed to realize something and glared at me angrily, not holding back. "So the criminal you spoke of is me? You can't even tell who is who, and you even imitate a thief-catching pose. Are you crazy? Did a teacher ever teach you, while ensuring your own safety, and while giving lectures on safety knowledge in the area of righteous actions and the police station, I would definitely invite you to sit in the first row." He spoke as if it were real. How could I dare to argue? I was so frightened that the brick slipped from my hand. I grabbed the scissors on the table, kept a distance from him, and before the police arrive, "I won't believe your words, he only showed me his ID. I didn't see his police officer badge. Besides, police should have at least 2 officers on duty. Only a fool would believe he is the one who compensates." Alas, seeing that I was genuinely frightened, he retreated to the doorway and stood still. Soon, I saw a police car stop at the entrance, and 2 police officers got out. I heard them call him captain. It turned out to be a complete misunderstanding, and I felt deeply apologetic. Not only did I wrongly accuse an innocent person, but I also called him a hooligan. I met Peyran again a week later. I had just returned from delivering a dress ordered by a client. I ate a couple of bites at a small food stall in town and was about to head home. When I was paying, a lewd hand touched my shoulder. I turned around and saw 3 men, clearly drunk and without manners, looking at me with ill intentions. I subtly took 2 steps back and said, "My boyfriend went to the restroom and will be back shortly." The leader grinned lewdly, looking me up and down. "Little sister, I've been watching you for a long time. What boyfriend? Tonight I'll be your boyfriend." I turned and ran. There will always be people who do bad things under the guise of being drunk. I was wearing a dress and heels, and after only a few steps I twisted my ankle. I took out my phone to call the police. "If you come any closer, I'm calling the police." People around started looking, but the men waved them away. "Nothing to see, just a couple arguing, move along." I thought I was going to meet my end that day. Suddenly, someone shielded me from behind. The hero who appeared out of nowhere was a head taller than me and kicked one of the hooligans about 2 meters away. Peyran, full of integrity, his police uniform crisp and neat, looked down at me, his jawline clearly defined and handsome. He happened to encounter me on his way back from a call, being harassed by those hooligans. What a coincidence. I forced a smile. He asked me, "Why are you always walking alone at night?" I retorted, unwilling to back down. "Aren't you?" Peyran fell silent and an awkward silence filled the air. Neither of us spoke again. By the time we finished filing the police report at the station, it was late at night. I limped my way home. "Officer Pei, could you please keep a little distance? People might think I'm walking with a gangster." Pei Ran chuckled. This is how the kind Miss Yi treats her rescuer. After a long stare, she walked up to me, squatted down and said, "Come on, I'll give you a piggyback ride home." Thinking about how I had just teased him, I felt my face flush with embarrassment at his sudden kindness. How could I possibly accept? "Thank you, but no need." I took a step away, but the pain made me grimace helplessly. I turned back, steeled myself and climbed onto his back as he walked. I could clearly smell the pleasant scent of his body wash, a gentle gardenia fragrance, fresh and clean. On the sofa, Pei Ran knelt on one knee, applying ointment to my ankle. His hands, though large and strong, were incredibly gentle as he held my foot. "There," Pei Ran said, looking up at me, his smile freezing on his face. I sat on the sofa, a little taller than him, so close that I suddenly met his eyes, and there was a moment of positive energy. "This person actually looks quite good." I pulled my feet back, and the glimmers of astonishment in my eyes faded. "Thank you, Miss Yi." Pei Ran looked at me and suddenly spoke. "What's wrong?" I was about to stand up when I heard her say, "You look pretty without glasses." I was a bit taken aback, and my heart skipped a beat. "Thank you," I smiled wryly. "If I don't wear glasses to look at you, you're pretty too." At sunset, I was focused on trimming fabric with my head bowed. Pei Ran's voice rang above my head. "Are you a tailor?" I learned from a colleague last time that he is also an orphan, which inexplicably drew some sympathy between us. On her way home from work, she passed by my studio and came in to take a look at me, signaling her to sit down, and poured him a glass of water. "Almost. I'm a designer. Mainly designing, but I also make clothes in my spare time." "So what kinds of clothes do you make?" I thought for a moment and answered honestly. "Women's wear are more coats, Gyeongsam's, dresses. Occasionally I take on formal wear and wedding dresses." Pei Ran suddenly became serious. "Do you make menswear?" "Of course." I looked up at him, my gaze lingering on his white shirt, and I asked with a puzzled look, "Are you going to make clothes? In 2 months' time there's a blind date." "I haven't worn a suit yet." Pei Ran smiled awkwardly. "The handmade ones must be expensive, right?" "If it isn't expensive, consider it my apology for hitting you with a brick." After finishing my work, I sat down to talk with him, and I've come to know Pei Ran as well. He is straightforward and talks without beating around the bush. I'm quite happy to make a friend like him. The time for the blind date in 2 months is a bit tight, so I quickly stood in front of the mirror in my shop. Pei Ran touched his chin, looking left and right, frowning in confusion. "Am I really that much of a troublemaker?" "You're not the only one who said so." He looked puzzled, both dumb and cute, but I could completely understand him. For people like us who have no one to rely on, if you're not fierce you'll be bullied. His cold and hard expression doesn't look someone hard to mess with, but it isn't as scary as people say either. At first impression, I unconsciously imagined the appearance of a villain in my head. Pei Ran isn't the handsome guy who looks great at first glance. Shaved heads without any styling were all he had, an above-average but not outstanding look. Yet his body proportions were perfect, muscles firm, a pair of long legs long and straight, which made him even more appealing. Her temperament was strong and sharp. With a good dressing up, he could easily captivate the little girl who was beginning to have feelings. On the day Pei Ran's suit half-finished was completed, I had arranged for her to come after work to try it on. When she came in, I was turned away from her, sorting out a client's gown. Pei Ran, "Wait a moment, I'll be ready soon and bring you the suit to try." After a long while without him speaking, I turned puzzledly to look, and my smile froze on my face. Juchi stood behind me, eyes red, looking worn and dusty, with messy hair fluttering, probably fragile again in the past. He would never let himself look so lousy. Before I could speak, Juchi spoke first, his words full of heartbreak from being abandoned. "Why didn't you leave without a word? I've found you for a long time. I think of you every day, but I can't find you anywhere." On the road to Jin Tang's wedding, I replanted my hope. "Come home with me, we'll get married." Used to Pei Ran's directness, Juchi's stiff words now made him a bit uncomfortable. He stepped forward and tightly embraced me, hot tears touching my skin. Memories of past hardships rushing up and pressing down on me until I could hardly breathe. I lowered my gaze, the smile cold. "I don't want it anymore. I can't live peacefully with Ju Luo. I can't accept the attitude of Ju Chi's family, and I don't want to face the wavering Ju Chi. In this situation, a separation would be a win-win for everyone. Spare myself, and spare others." In the days that followed, I still liked white roses. I still liked black wedding dresses. I was simply tired of wanting you. After more than half a year apart, Ju Chi had grown much thinner, his shoulders pressing my chin in an uncomfortable way. Pei Ran appeared in due time, effortlessly pulling him away. "Who are you?" Juqi glowered at him, brows furrowed, retorting, "Who are you? I came to see my fiancé. What does that have to do with you?" As the people looking at me watched, I added at the right moment, "Your ex-boyfriend." "Ha!" Pei Ran smiled faintly, his expression grim. He turned to Juqi, pulled out a police badge and held it up to his eyes. "Disorderly conduct, come with me." The June wind moved, all things full of vigor. On the third day Juqi arrived in the town. Zhu Luo followed closely behind, a person who would go to any length to achieve a goal. How could they be willing to be thwarted? When he burst into the studio, I was fitting Pei Ran with clothes. He doesn't know much about clothes, he's simply following my lead. But one must admit, her figure is really good. The suit on her body looked steady and elegant, and when she stood before the mirror in my shop, many girls paused to glance over. I was considering, if she isn't busy, inviting her to be my male model. A cup of water was suddenly thrown at me. Pei Ran, with his quick reflexes, shielded me and his shoulder got soaked. "Pei Ran, are you okay?" Water dripped from my hair. Looking at the wet patches on Pei Ran's clothes for the first time, I felt a surge of anger. I've seen these petty tricks too many times. I haven't had enough of playing the game in the mid lane. He's reached the end of his rope and is truly childish. No one exposed his past small actions, not because his methods were clever, but because his family played dumb, indulging him unconditionally. Zhu Luo was still blustering in front of me, arrogantly pointing at me with his finger. I lost my patience and jabbed him in the arm with a needle from a mannequin. Zhu Luo yelped, looking at me fearfully. "Was that what I just gave you back?" I opened the lid of the water bottle and splashed it all over him. "This is for Pei Ran." The entire pot of water poured out and I felt an unprecedented sense of release. So this is what it feels like to act recklessly. No wonder Zhu Luo always did foolish things without considering the consequences. Pei Ran found a towel from somewhere and began to dry my hair. Zhu Luo, clutching his arm, looked at him disdainfully and snorted through his nose. "He's asking for trouble. Where did you find this bodyguard? He looks like a thug." I glanced at Pei Ran subtly. Sure enough, his expression visibly darkened. He has a handsome face, but his demeanor is roguish. Combined with his tall stature, he always makes people think of a thug. At this moment he glared. "Little girl, you're going too far." Juqi happened to walk in from outside. Zhu Luo's tears immediately fell as he threw himself into his arms. "Brother, they bullied me," he said, lifting his arm to show Juqi his injury. Juqi looked at his delicate arm for a long time, then gave him a confused glance, his handsome brows furrowed. After a long pause, he said, "Brother, he and this bodyguard have an unusual relationship." Zhu Luo's lips curled in a triumphant smile. He didn't recognize Pei Ran, but Juqi had been in trouble before. He paused for a moment, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Jing Tang, you and him, you call him a thug and a bodyguard. Do you really think I have a good temper? Get lost if you know what's good for you." Pei Ran's lips curved into a half-smile, his tone as casual as if he were saying, "I don't want to play with you anymore." But his clear black and white eyes held a dangerous warning. "Stay away." Juqi, at the opportune moment, led away the drenched Zhu Luo, thus ending the farce. I watched his retreating figure, realizing the feeling was gone. I'm an extremely insecure person. My boyfriend either has to give me lots and lots of love or lots and lots of money, but in my world, security always comes first. If he can give me enough security, then not having money is fine. My relationship with Juqi began with blatant favoritism and ended with his blatant favoritism towards Zhu Luo. I think perhaps heaven dislikes greedy children, and I was too greedy. I wanted too much love, so after all the twists and turns I ended up alone, getting nothing. A towel blocked my vision, and without thinking you shielded me. What if it was acid? Pei Ran's eyes crinkled as he joked. Then there's really no cure. I wasn't joking, I was afraid he'd actually do it. I was unhappy with his flippant attitude, and my gaze shifted to the towel in his hand. I gasped, "Pei Ran, this is the towel I used to wipe the table." It was July, and the sky was a clear blue. Juqi was being forced by his family to go back and get engaged to Miss Qin. I heard she was an only child, pampered and spoiled. More than enough to match Juqi. Juqi's father had always wanted him to marry someone from a well-matched family, and now that he could form a connection with the Qin family, he was quite pleased. I called Pei Ran and asked him to come over today wearing a suit. As the sunset painted the sky red, Zhu Luo stood before me. "Your brother is being forced to go back and get married, aren't you sad?" His eyes were red, clearly having cried. They were wet, like they'd been soaked by the gentle spring rain. A true sense of brokenness, I sighed, thinking about the misfortune. If I had such beautiful eyes, I would never bear to cry with them. I put away Peyran's suit and continued with my other work. If she's unwilling, no one can force her to marry. Besides, we broke up long ago. It has nothing to do with me who he marries. Hypocritical. His voice was soft, but his eyes were cold. I put down my work and looked directly at him, smiling gently. Ju Luo, no, everyone is like you, hypocritical and selfish. If you had honestly admitted you liked Ju Qi, I would have thought more of you. Instead of faking an illness, you keep seeking attention from him. Ju Luo staggered, a blush of embarrassment on his cheeks, his eyes showing the nervousness of having his secrets exposed. How did you know? He stammered. I smiled and met his gaze. I can pretend to be foolish, but that doesn't mean I actually am. After a long moment, Ju Luo nodded, looking at me with almost resentment. Then do you know why I was in a car accident? Before I could answer, she spoke the answer herself. Because my older brother told me he was in love. I could hardly accept it and immediately ran to find him. By the end, her tone was almost crazily stubborn. I must see what kind of person had stolen my brother. I thought the one he loved would be someone radiant and brilliant, but you are so ordinary, so plain. I am not reconciled. How do I know where I am inferior to you? I retort. When did your illness get better? Zhongluo spoke bluntly with a vivid sneer at the corners of his lips. Before returning home, the light by the window was warm, and the wind coming from the front was hot. But when my eyes met Ju Ruo's, a sudden chill rose in my heart. I recalled the disappointment I had swallowed alone before, and I unreservedly showed him my malice. You like Ju Qi. You can strive to make him fall in love with you rather than harboring dark thoughts and plotting dirty tricks, behaving like something unseen in the gutter. It's as if Ju Ruo, who lives in the gutter, cuts me off mid-sentence. His eyes are cold, with not a trace of a smile. What do you want to say? That I am a rat living in the gutter? The silent air flowed, and the gaze that had become especially jealous finally moved away with focus. I lowered my head and continued with my work, unwilling to speak to him further. You're always circling around him. Do you have nothing else to do? Ju Luo, I pity you. Ju Luo let out a cold laugh, casually wiping away his tears, his head held high in a proud, aloof pose. He passed me and moved forward, his voice trailing behind him, filled with extremes and delusion. Do as you will, I will never give up. Brother Peyran arrived as promised, brushing past Ju Luo. His mind is only 7 years old. Looking at him earlier, lowering his head to look at Ju Luo, it happened to meet his disdainful gaze. Peyran frowned here, his expression like he had bitten into a fly. A mischievous child who makes a mistake just needs a beating. I don't want to argue too much. I handed him the clothes and let him go to the fitting room. Nobody will eventually meet a hard person. His luck will come later. Not everyone is as easy to bully as I am, and not everyone will give him face, and more importantly, not everyone has no backing like me. Ju Qi entered from the outside. Looking dejected, I made a gesture for a pause, signaling him to stay away from me. Jing Tang's father wants me to go home for an arranged marriage. I smiled faintly. Congratulations, we really don't have. I interrupted him decisively. No chance, no possibility. He stood in front of me and looked at me quietly for a long time, so long that I felt a little uncomfortable. He spoke softly. Jing Tang, I hope you can be happy and find someone who truly loves you. I nodded. Thank you. Even at the moment of parting, I still wanted to give this nearly 10-year relationship some dignity, so I smiled faintly and sincerely wished him well. Ju Qi, I wish you happiness. Thank you for giving me the first piece of candy in my life, and thank you for pushing me, encouraging me, and accompanying me on this 10-year journey. Although someone got off the bus midway, the scenery we experienced together is real, and those moments of excitement and joy are real. I will write them down and turn to find the next person who moves me. Ju Qi was silent for a moment, a faint redness appearing at the corners of his eyes. He changed the subject. It can't be Peyran, he's a scoundrel. He of course didn't know Peyran. While we were talking in my shop, Peyran happened to come out of the fitting room. Our eyes met. Before Peyran could change his expression, I quickly closed the door. Through the transparent glass, I saw Ju Qi crying. Crystal tears fell down her chin, big and round like beads from a broken string. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something more. Ju Qi, I said with a bitter smile. It would be impolite to say any more. Ju Qi left and Ju Luo also left. Peyran bent over in a strange posture, his shoulder close to my face. Cry if you want to cry, you can lean on my shoulder. I wiped away my tears, acting tough. I just got sand in my eyes, I shouldn't be crying. But for some reason the tears wouldn't stop. I met him when I was 18 and now I'm 27. He alone occupied nearly 10 years of my time. How many decades does one life have? It would be a lie to say I have no regrets. Peyran took out a tissue and wiped my tears. He looked at me silently for a while, then finally said, "Stop crying. If you cry anymore, I'll go catch him and beat him up." Peyran's words made me laugh in anger. I hit him. "Are you crazy?" In the streetside cafe, I had an appointment with a client to discuss wedding dress styles, and I happened to run into Peyran here for a blind date. I sat by the window, he 2 tables away, and I could glance up to see him's cautious gestures with just a raise of his eyes, which was a bit funny. He clearly had little dating experience, only nodding or grinning foolishly, showing a row of neat white teeth. While the client went to the restroom, I watched his flustered confusion and let out a snort of laughter. My eyes met Peyran's as he looked at me. I turned my head to the window, the corner of my mouth uncontrollably lifting. The work went smoothly from then on. When leaving, the client asked with a smile if there was any happy event. Suddenly, since I had been laughing the whole time, I looked back into Peyran's eyes. His blind date had already left, only he remained sitting in the same spot, quietly watching me. "It's over. Chances are it's not salvageable." I know he values this blind date a lot, which is why he had a suit custom made for it and wore normally unused leather shoes. When I buttoned his tie, I smelled the fresh scent of his shower gel. "I'm sorry for laughing at you." I walked over and softly apologized. I shouldn't have mocked him when he was so embarrassed. "I don't know if it affected his mood because of that. It's not your fault that you still gaze at me, your eyes falling on my brow, your smile soft and tranquil, and that made my heart go into turmoil." The remaining days were hot and oppressive, and the air seemed to freeze. It was a cloudy day. Everywhere there was threads of grey, seeping in everywhere. In the evening, Peyran brought me a watermelon, took the cool water with ice from my hand and placed a piece of watermelon into my palm. I took a bite and bent over to sketch a design. Rhett's hand brushed over my ear and tied up the scattered hair. After a long while, his voice sounded behind me, "Can you make me another set of clothes?" I turned around puzzled and looked at him. "Sure, although my eyes are already a ruler, and in half a month my weight shouldn't change much." But for rigor I still picked up the measuring tape to confirm again. Today the atmosphere was unusually quiet. Peyran stared at me without blinking, saying nothing. The heat rose to my ears under his gaze, and I lowered my eyes awkwardly, casually looking for a topic to talk about. What was he thinking? I was wondering. Peyran is genuinely earnest. What excuse should I use? "Next time to see you," in my surprised gaze. Peyran lowered his head and gazed into my eyes. There was a note of openness between his brows. "Jintang, I like you." Usually she always calls me that, in the image of the warm-hearted Mrs. Yi. This is the first time she has spoken my name so seriously and gently. "Do you like me?" he asked me again. "On the day of the blind date, you sat by the window talking to the client about the design draft, with a faint scholarly air between your brows and eyes, gentle and upright. You looked at me and smiled a little. The smile was dazzling, more beautiful than the sunshine outside the window." After a brief silence, under my confused gaze, Peyran clumsily produced his ID card, household registration book, salary card, property ownership certificate and savings passbook. "I'm not very rich, but I will do my best to give you the best wedding. I am serious, let's get married." Two people who are equally at a loss feel a bit panicked. My breath paused, and in slow motion I saw Peyran's Adam's apple moving up and down, whose breath had gone wrong. It goes without saying I don't know what to say, but when I saw the household registration book, my eyes still welled up. "Thank you, Peyran, for lifting me onto the workbench with one hand, gently taking off my glasses, getting closer and closer. How can you be so gentle?" Listening to his words that sound like a confession yet also like his own words, I looked up at him. "Have you been drinking?" Peyran, the teacher, instructed to stay silent for a moment, then asked me, "Have you drunk?" I honestly answered that I hadn't. As we spoke, the distance intertwined with subtle breaths. I could smell the faint soap scent around her collar and the fragrance of my body wash. Light and soft. Outside it started to rain, pattering with the heavy rain sound. I bit down on Peyran's pure. That night, the rain outside was noisy, the indoor atmosphere chaotic, the ceiling light swayed before my eyes, my heart pounding in a frenzy. There was no marvel in a Novel, no dreamy romance in fairy tales. We turned toward Lu Guilin, toward the shore. Everything fell into place. When Peiran turned 10, he went to apply for an orphan familiar certificate. The clerk at the counter told him, from today onwards, you are an adult, but now we have a home. From now on you are not a kid who is cared for by no one anymore. On the wedding day, I was waiting for my groom to pick me up. We only had a few relatives and friends sitting together having a meal, and that would count as getting married. Sang Ning came from afar, pressed my head to make me eat melon. He said Julu used the old trick again. But he didn't think that even Juqi's father would yield. Could a little errand runner like her provoke him? I heard she wore someone else's wedding dress, which disgusted me to no end. She thought she was acting in a TV drama wearing Ayupin's clothes that night. A few vans from the Qin family came to demand an explanation, questioning whether this marriage was an unwilling arrangement. The scene almost scared him to death. Juqi's father, fearing Juqi's marriage would fall through, divorced from Ju Ayu's mother, and sent them away overnight. It was far too cheap for her. I listened calmly, neither sad nor happy, just other people's lives. Just listen and move on. I have someone I should care about. Peiran came to pick me up. He wore the suit I made for him, tall and upright, with an exceptional bearing. When he looked at me, his eyes were gentle like water. I wore a black wedding dress, holding a silvery rose. Marrying him, we exchanged rings and kissed among the fluttering fireworks. I heard him whisper in my ear, I belong only to you. I've walked a long way, and now I've finally come home. I was 5 months pregnant when I accidentally saw on TV a chief designer I like very much admitting apprentices. During a meal, I mentioned it to Peiran. Peiran thought for a moment and asked, is he really powerful? I nodded. A look of worship filled the whole of China. Oh no, the whole world. He is also an explosive presence. The next morning, Peilan coaxed me to get up and asked me to go with him. I went downstairs and found that he had already packed our luggage. Looking at the bundles in front of me, I was dumbfounded. Where could we possibly go? Peiran, stylish as ever, shouldered the bag as if to try it out. Sensing the hesitation in my eyes, he gave me a reassuring look. If you get the job, come home to eat meat. If you don't, come home to have a baby. It's not a big deal if the sky falls. I'll hold it up for you. Don't you want to meet her? My wife is gentle and ambitious. How could I stop you from pursuing a better life? By the end of his words, he started getting sentimental again. You go chase your dreams. I promise to take good care of you and your daughter. Wherever you are, that's my home. Wherever I am, I'm with you. I'll accompany you to the ends of the earth. I was so moved that tears welled up. Thank you, Peiran. You're really a good person. I didn't expect to meet Juqi again. When I walked out of the interview hall, I saw him at a glance. Since university days, he and I have both liked this designer. She looked not well, eyes hollow. I stood in front of him, and he stared at me blankly for a long while before recognizing me. Jintang, are you alright? I smiled. I'm fine. He looked at my growing belly, fell silent for a moment, and then asked him, are you alright? I know he's referring to Peiran. Thinking of the man downstairs waiting quietly for me, the corner of my lips curved into a bright smile. He has treated me well, he nodded. His smile strained and said, that's good. After you left, I realized I can't do anything well without you. After a long time, she said with a wry smile that she didn't understand my ideals and that I felt what I was doing now was meaningless. I didn't even know if I still wanted to go in for the interview. Don't think like that. I looked at his thin, pointed chin and remembered what Sangning had said. The Qin family was a large and prosperous one, and Juqi had suffered a lot. Juqi, pull yourself together. But all I could do was encourage him verbally. I hoped he could be as confident as before. Good and bad are choices you make yourself. If he's not willing, no one can make any decisions for him. Seeing that it was getting late, I smiled and bid him farewell. I have to go. My husband is waiting for me. I didn't get selected, so you adjust your state and go try. At night, I lay in bed and Peiran helped me apply olive oil. Are you happy today? Of course I'm happy. As soon as I mention this, I can't suppress my excitement. It's enough to keep me happy for a long time. You don't know, when I held his hand and didn't let go, his terrified eyes probably thought I was some kind of crazy fan. The baby felt my happy emotions and moved a few times. He kicked me. Peiran stroked my round belly and gently coaxed. Be good, don't bother mommy. I stretched my legs into her arms. Aren't you going to ask if I got selected? Peiran lowered his head, meticulously applying the oil, and said with a smile, then did you get selected? No, I answered honestly. In fact, I knew long ago that I wouldn't be selected. There were too many excellent people. and I still needed to work hard. Okay. Peyran helped me put the pregnancy pillow in place, lowered his head and kissed me. You'll try again tomorrow. Now close your eyes and sleep. I'm not sleepy, don't turn off the light yet. Peyran asked, aren't you tired? I nodded, not really. Peyran smiled, then his face moved closer and closer to mine and he whispered seductively in my ear, then let's do something else. My old face blushed and I swatted away his mischievous hand. My face, don't corrupt the child, this is called loving education. Peyran said it as if he were being serious, but he wasn't doing anything serious. I looked into his eyes and for a moment, I felt bewitched. Peyran. He kissed my lips and called me husband. A long time later, he held me and asked, are you tired? I always nestle in his arms and nod obediently. Should I sleep or not? I neatly put away the pregnancy pillow, closed my eyes and hurriedly nodded. Could you please turn off the light? I want to sleep, thank you. On the day the child was born, Peyran cried louder than I did. When I was pushed out of the delivery room after giving birth, her eyes were red, and she held our daughter, smiling so broadly she couldn't keep her mouth shut. You always love saying thank you, so should we call it? What the heck? I almost jumped up to hit him, but in the end I gave the child a name. Jareen. I hope she is lucky in life, smooth sailing all the way. Born in September, nicknamed 9999 when we were 2, Peyran took us to sweep the tombs for Grandpa and Grandma. I kowtowed several times, hoping Grandma would bless me in the new year to lose 10 pounds, become prettier, make a fortune, and have everything go smoothly. Thank you, Grandma. Peyran held me and I couldn't help but laugh for a long time. Grandma, please don't listen to Jeantong's nonsense, as long as you bless him to be safe and sound. That's enough. The day before yesterday it just snowed, and the ice on the road hadn't melted yet. In the snowy white, I saw sprouting grass. Peyran held me with one arm and held my hand with the other for a long time, stepping home toward the coming warmth of spring and blooming flowers. I firmly believe that a broken mirror cannot be mended, but withered trees can meet spring again. I waited for the next season of blossoms. I'm home.